Ambassador Elena Chen straightened her collar as the Stellar Assembly's massive doors parted with a pneumatic hiss. The cavernous chamber beyond stretched higher than any human building, its walls adorned with the flags and emblems of 87 spacefaring civilizations. Earth's simple blue and white banner, newly added, looked almost childish beside the ornate standards of species that had ruled the stars for millennia. "Remember," her aide whispered, "diplomatic protocols only. No mention of Project Quantum." Elena nodded slightly. Humanity's greatest technological achievement remained classified at the highest levels. What these aliens would soon dismiss as a primitive species had, in fact, solved the quantum teleportation problem that had eluded the galaxy's brightest minds. The human delegation proceeded down the central aisle as representatives from across the galaxy observed with reactions ranging from curiosity to outright disdain. Massive Krellians with their silicon-based biology shifted uncomfortably, multifaceted eyes tracking the humans' movements. The crystalline Lumerians refracted light in patterns that their kind recognized as barely concealed amusement. Most imposing were the Phyrexians, the Assembly's undisputed military power. Their delegation occupied the most prominent position, exoskeletons gleaming with embedded rank insignia representing centuries of conquest. Supreme Commander Zhovak, nearly 12 feet tall with articulated battle armor integrated into his exoskeleton, watched Elena through compound eyes that missed nothing. "The Earth delegation may approach the central podium," announced the Assembly moderator, a neutral Philasian whose species prided themselves on impartiality. As Elena reached the speaker's platform, the Assembly's holographic display activated, showing Earth's position in the galactic map. A tiny, blinking dot at the edge of an unremarkable spiral arm. Beside it, data scrolled showing Earth's contribution to the Assembly. 1 habitable planet, 3 partially terraformed Martian colonies, a handful of mining operations throughout their solar system, and a fleet of 24 interstellar vessels. Muffled laughter rippled through the chamber. "Distinguished representatives," Elena began, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Earth is honored to join this esteemed assembly as its newest member." From the Phyrexian section, Commander Zhovak's translator boomed. "Honored, perhaps grateful would be more accurate. Your species controls neither strategic resources nor vital trade routes. Your military presence is negligible. By Assembly metrics, humans barely qualify for observer status, much less full membership." Elena maintained her diplomatic smile as murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. "We come with respect for the Assembly's 5,000 years of history," she continued, "and with hope that Earth can contribute meaningfully to our shared future." Contribute. Zhovak's mandibles clicked in what his species considered laughter. The Phyrexian Empire maintains a fleet of 8,000 warships across 500 worlds. The Lumerians have developed energy technology that powers entire star systems. The Krellians can terraform dead planets in decades. What exactly does humanity bring to this assembly beyond consumption of resources better allocated elsewhere? The chamber filled with approving chittering and bioluminescent flashes from various delegations. Elena felt her cheeks warm but maintained her composure. "Perhaps our perspective, Commander. Sometimes the newest eyes see what others have overlooked." A diplomatic non-answer. Zhovak dismissed with a wave of his armored limb. "Welcome to the Assembly, humans. Your assigned tier is Category 5. Accommodations and access privileges will be adjusted accordingly." Category 5. The lowest possible ranking. As Elena bowed and led her delegation to their newly assigned seats, small, uncomfortable platforms in the chamber's furthest corner, she exchanged a knowing glance with her military attaché. Let them underestimate Earth, on the dark side of humanity's moon. Beneath 200 meters of lunar regolith, engineers were making final adjustments to teleportation arrays that would soon rewrite the galaxy's understanding of what humans could do. 3 weeks into Earth's probationary assembly membership, alarms shattered the diplomatic monotony. Emergency lights pulsed across the vast chamber as representatives hurried to their stations. Alina rushed in to find the central holographic display showing a remote sector near the Cygnus arm, where several monitoring stations had gone silent simultaneously. Outpost Kepler has ceased transmission, announced the Thalasian moderator, their normally impassive features tense. Last communications indicate unknown vessels penetrated their defense grid without triggering proximity alerts. Magnified footage appeared on the display, grainy images of sleek, obsidian ships that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. The vessels fired weapons that emitted waves of dark energy, reducing an assembly station to molecular dust within seconds. Enhancement, ordered Commander Jovac. The image zoomed to reveal the attacking ships had no visible propulsion systems. They simply appeared, attacked, and vanished. The assembly erupted into chaos. Order. The moderator's voice cut through the panic. We face an unknown hostile force with technology beyond our current understanding. The Defense Council will convene immediately. Alina received a notification on her neural interface. Earth had been granted temporary observer status in the emergency session. She followed the senior representatives to a fortified chamber deep within the assembly station. Inside, military commanders from the highest-tier species gathered around a strategic display. Commander Jovac dominated the discussion, his exoskeleton expanded to battle configuration. We designate this threat the Voidborn, he declared. Their attack pattern suggests advanced phase-shifting technology, explaining how they bypassed our early warning systems. Admiral Kenji Takamura, Earth's military representative, stood quietly in the observer section, his expression revealing nothing. Alina knew what he was thinking. The enemy's capabilities resembled aspects of human quantum displacement technology, though with a devastatingly weaponized application. The Assembly Charter requires proportional defense contributions from all members, the Krellian General announced. Resources will be allocated according to species capability. The display showed the projected fleet assignments. The Vrexians would commit 500 warships, the Lumerians 300 energy vessels, the Krellians 200 terraformer-class ships retrofitted for combat. Earth's contribution: 2 observer vessels. This is an insult, Alina whispered to Admiral Takamura. This is perfect, he replied softly. They expect nothing from us. When the official assignments appeared, Admiral Takamura accepted Earth's minimal role without objection, causing several delegates to exchange surprised glances. The Vrexian commander narrowed his compound eyes but said nothing. As the meeting concluded, Alina's neural link vibrated with an encrypted message from Earth Central Command. Displacement Protocol Authorization CODE. ODYSEUS. She glanced at Admiral Takamura, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Earth was activating its contingency plan. Later that night, while the assembly station dimmed for its sleep cycle, Alina and Takamura met in a secure communication pod. Project Quantum is fully operational, Takamura said, bringing up classified schematics on his secure tablet. 3,500 vessels equipped with displacement drives, hidden throughout our solar system. Crews have been training for years for exactly this scenario. Alina studied the deployment plan with rising hope. How long until they can engage? The displacement rings require precise calibration for jumps of this magnitude. Captain Rodriguez needs 72 hours to position the quantum anchors that will guide our fleet to the exact coordinates. The Assembly expects us to send our 2 observer vessels in 4 days, Alina noted. Takamura's expression hardened. We'll send them exactly what they expect, a token force of outdated ships. Meanwhile, beneath Europa's ice and inside Venus's cloud facilities, our real fleet prepares for humanity's true introduction to galactic warfare. Alina gazed at the schematics of ships no alien eyes had ever seen. Vessels designed from the ground up around quantum displacement technology. Ships that didn't need conventional engines because they simply ceased to exist in one location and reappeared in another. The Voidborn may have similar technology, she cautioned. Similar, perhaps, Takamura acknowledged. But they haven't had a century of human ingenuity perfecting it. Whatever they can do, we can do better. As they ended their secure meeting, a priority alert flashed across all assembly channels. 3 more outposts had gone silent. The shadows at the edge were advancing faster than anyone had predicted. The Assembly's combined fleet engaged the Voidborn at the Carthalian Nebula, a strategic choke point guarding 8 core systems. It should have been an overwhelming victory. Over 1,000 advanced warships against the estimated 80 Voidborn vessels. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. Alina watched the catastrophe unfold from the Assembly's command center. The holographic display showed assembly ships exploding in rapid succession as dark energy weapons tore through their supposedly impenetrable shields. The Voidborn vessels would disappear from one location and materialize at another, always where defenses were weakest. Their phase shifting is too advanced, the Lumerian admiral hissed, her crystalline form pulsing with distress. They anticipate our tactical adjustments before we implement them. Commander Jovac slammed his armored limb against the tactical display. Where are the human observer vessels? He demanded, compound eyes fixing on Alina. Even token support would be welcome in this disaster. Admiral Takamura stepped forward, his expression calm despite the chaos. The EA's Vigilant and EA's Sentinel are maintaining position at Sector 7, as ordered by your battle command. Hiding at the rear, sneered a Krellian officer, typical of an untested species. Alina bit back a retort. Earth's vessels were exactly where the Phyrexian battle plan had placed them, far from any meaningful combat. Meanwhile, throughout human territory, Project Quantum entered its final phase. The message she'd received minutes earlier still glowed on her neural link. Displacement arrays at 98% calibration. Quantum anchors deploy at target coordinates. 3 days of brutal defeats followed. 8 assembly worlds fell to the Voidborn advance. The combined fleet lost 40% of its strength, with the mighty Phyrexian armada suffering the heaviest casualties. Commander Jovac, his exoskeleton now bearing scorch marks from a damaged command ship, called an emergency council. The Voidborn will reach the central systems within 14 days, he announced, his translator unable to hide the fatigue in his voice. The Assembly must consider strategic withdrawal to defensible positions. The chamber erupted with shouted objections and demands. Several species announced they were recalling their remaining ships to defend their homeworlds. The vaunted unity of the Assembly crumbled before Alina's eyes. Earth requests permission to implement an alternative strategy, Admiral Takamura stated, his voice cutting through the chaos. Silence fell as all eyes turned to the human delegation. Commander Jovac's mandibles clicked in what passed for derisive laughter among Phyrexians. Now, when even our strongest vessels fall before this enemy, what could Earth possibly contribute beyond what the Assembly's finest military minds have already attempted? A different approach, Alina offered. Elaborate, demanded the Thalesian moderator. Admiral Takamura straightened. For security reasons, I cannot disclose operational details in this forum. We request 48 hours to position our resources. Resources? Commander Jovac's translator couldn't fully convey his incredulity. Your entire contribution consists of 2 obsolete observer vessels. What resources could you possibly bring to bear against an enemy that has decimated the greatest fleet in 5 millennia of Assembly history? Alina met his compound gaze steadily. Perhaps it's time the Assembly learned what humanity truly brings to this alliance. Your arrogance exceeds even your species' reputation, Jovac said. While my warriors die, you speak of secret strategies and hidden resources. The Assembly needs ships and weapons, not human mysteries. A Krellian representative rose. Let them try. What harm could their failure possibly add to our current situation? Murmurs of reluctant agreement spread through the chamber. The moderator nodded to Alina. You have 24 hours, not 48. The Assembly cannot wait longer. As they exited the chamber, Admiral Takamura sent the final authorization through his neural link. Execute Displacement Protocol Alpha. All vessels. Captain Rodriguez, the fate of Earth depends on your accuracy. Beneath the ice sheets of Europa, Captain Maya Rodriguez acknowledged the command. 3,500 human ships prepared to make history or die in obscurity. The command center fell silent as the holographic display updated, showing the Voidborn fleet advancing through the remains of the Carthalian defense line. Shattered assembly vessels drifted like cosmic debris around the nebulous perimeter, while the Obsidian ships moved with methodical precision toward the next populated system. Casualties exceed 63% of engaged forces, reported the Thilasian analyst, their voice flat despite the devastating statistics scrolling beside them. Phyrexian heavy cruisers lost 87. Lumerian energy vessels destroyed 74. Krellian battle platforms disabled 56. Commander Jovac stood motionless, his exoskeleton's damage more extensive after leading a desperate counterattack that had failed spectacularly. 2 of his 4 limbs showed signs of emergency field repairs. The Phyrexian Empire is recalling its remaining fleet elements to defensive positions around our core worlds, he announced. His usual arrogance had evaporated, replaced by grim determination. I recommend all assembly species do the same. The implications weren't lost on anyone present. The mighty Stellar Assembly, undefeated for 5 millennia, was preparing for the unthinkable: retreat, defeat, and possibly extinction. One by one, representatives announced similar withdrawals. The Lumerians would concentrate their remaining ships around their crystal homeworld. The Krellians were already evacuating border colonies. 3 minor species declared they would seek immediate surrender terms with the Voidborn. Elena glanced at her neural link. 18 hours had passed since Admiral Takamura sent the activation codes. 6 hours remained in the deadline they'd been given. The status update from Captain Rodriguez showed 97% completion on the displacement calculations. The Earth delegation requests guidance on our assigned position in the new defensive arrangement, Admiral Takamura asked, his calm voice a stark contrast to the panic filling the chamber. Commander Jovac turned slowly. Your 2 observer vessels are inconsequential to any strategy at this point, Admiral. Position them wherever you wish. They will make no difference. Perhaps, Takamura replied, but Earth's contribution to this conflict is not yet complete. Still clinging to your mysterious alternative strategy. Jovac's translator couldn't fully convey the bitterness in his response. While real warriors die, humans offer nothing but vague promises. Elena stepped forward. The assembly has failed using conventional tactics against an unconventional enemy. Earth proposes. Enough. Jovac's limbs slammed the tactical display. The time for proposals ended when a Carthalian line fell. We face extinction, Ambassador. The assembly needs warships and weaponry, not human diplomatic posturing. The chamber filled with sounds of agreement from the desperate representatives. The Thilasian moderator raised their hands for order. Ambassador Chen, your species was granted 24 hours to implement whatever strategy you envisioned. 18 have passed with no observable action from Earth. The Assembly cannot afford further delays while hope fades and worlds burn. Elena looked to Admiral Takamura, who gave a barely perceptible nod. Moderator, Commander, honored representatives, she said, her voice steady despite the tension. Earth requires 6 more hours. What we are preparing has never been attempted at this scale. What exactly are you preparing? Demanded the Krellian general. A demonstration of why humanity deserved more than Category 5 status, Elena replied simply. Derisive sounds filled the chamber. Commander Jovac turned his back, dismissing her with the most insulting gesture in Phyrexian culture. The humans may have their 6 hours, the moderator conceded, though I fail to see what difference it will make. This council is adjourned until tomorrow's final defensive planning session. As representatives filed out, many already sending farewell messages to their homeworlds, Elena activated her secured channel to Luna Command. Captain Rodriguez, the Assembly has lost faith. We need the fleet now. The response came immediately. Displacement sequence initiating, Ambassador. 3,500 vessels preparing for simultaneous arrival. The galaxy is about to remember this day for eternity. The Assembly Command Center operated with skeletal efficiency. Species representatives huddled around the strategic display, showing the inexorable advance of voidborn forces. Tactical officers spoke in hushed tones, drafting evacuation priorities for core worlds. Commander Jovac stood with his senior staff, mandibles clicking as they calculated remaining defensive capabilities. Alina and Admiral Takamura entered silently, taking their positions at the human observation station, a small terminal relegated to the periphery of the room. No one acknowledged their arrival. Earth's moment of promised intervention had come and gone in the eyes of the Assembly. The Admiral checked his neural link. 30 seconds, he whispered. Elena nodded, her pulse quickening. Captain Rodriguez had confirmed the displacement fleet's readiness 12 minutes earlier. The quantum anchors, specialized devices secretly placed throughout the battle space, had synchronized to Earth Standard Time. 3,500 vessels would arrive simultaneously, the largest coordinated quantum jump in human history. 10 seconds, Takamura murmured. Elena's gaze fixed on the tactical display. The Voidborn fleet had formed into attack formations approaching the Helios Gateway, the last significant defensive position before the Assembly core worlds. 5. She took a deep breath. 4. The Lumerian representative announced the loss of another observation post. 3. Commander Jovac ordered the remaining Vrexian heavy cruisers to fall back. 2. The Thalasian moderator opened diplomatic channels to attempt communication with the Voidborn. 1. Elena whispered, "Now." Nothing happened for precisely 1.4 seconds, the time required for quantum displacement signals to reach the Assembly's detection grid. Then every alarm in the command center activated simultaneously. "Multiple spatial anomalies detected," shouted a Krellian sensor officer, their voice cracking with panic. Massive energy signatures appearing throughout the system. The tactical display erupted with new contact markers as thousands of unidentified vessels materialized in perfect formation, directly behind and flanking the Voidborn fleet. "We're being surrounded," cried the Lumerian admiral. Unknown forces emerging from quantum space. Commander Jovac spun toward the display, his exoskeleton expanding to battle posture. "Identify these vessels immediately." The chamber descended into chaos as representatives demanded answers. Tactical officers scrambled to process the flood of sensor data, and security protocols automatically locked down the station. Admiral Takamura calmly walked to the central command podium and activated the communications array. The assembly leaders fell silent as the main screen displayed the bridge of an unknown vessel, sleek, advanced, and unmistakably human in design. Captain Maya Rodriguez appeared on screen, her uniform bearing the Earth Defense Force insignia. Behind her, a bridge crew operated stations with practiced efficiency. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the EDF Quantum Horizon, flagship of the Earth Displacement Fleet. All 3,500 vessels have successfully transitioned to combat positions. Request targeting priorities from Assembly Command." The silence that followed was absolute. Commander Jovac's compound eyes fixed on the display, his mandibles frozen mid-click. 3,500 vessels. The Thalasian moderator finally managed. "Correct, moderator," Captain Rodriguez replied. "The quantum displacement was calculated to position our fleet in optimal strike formation around the Voidborn. Our sensors indicate they're attempting to reconfigure their dimensional drives in response. We have approximately 4 minutes before they can initiate retreat protocols." Elena stepped forward. "Commander Jovac, the Earth Displacement Fleet awaits your tactical coordination. Perhaps now would be an appropriate time to reconsider Earth's Category 5 classification." The mighty Vrexian commander stared at the tactical display, showing thousands of human warships. Vessels that had appeared from nowhere, using technology his species had deemed theoretically impossible. "Ambassador Chen," he said, his translator struggling to convey his bewilderment, "it seems humanity has been keeping secrets." Elena smiled. "Not secrets, Commander. just capabilities beyond what you thought to ask about. The Assembly Command Center transformed into a hub of frantic activity as tactical officers scrambled to integrate the human fleet into their defense network. Commander Jovac recovered his composure quickly, his military training overriding his shock. "Establish tactical link with the Earth vessels," he ordered. "Designate primary targets and coordinate firing solutions." On the main display, Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Receiving targeting data. Be advised, Commander, our combat doctrine differs significantly from Assembly standard protocols." Before Jovac could respond, the tactical display updated, showing the first wave of human vessels engaging the enemy. What followed defied conventional space warfare logic. The quantum horizon vanished from its position and reappeared directly beside the largest Voidborn command vessel. Point-blank railgun fire erupted from the human flagship, concentrated streams of hyper-accelerated projectiles tearing through the enemy's hull before their shields could reconfigure. Simultaneously, throughout the battlefield, human ships performed similar maneuvers. They didn't move through space. They simply ceased to exist in one location and materialized in another. No acceleration, no momentum conservation, just disappearance and reappearance. "Impossible," whispered the Lumerian admiral, her crystalline form pulsing with intense light. "They're using controlled quantum displacement as a tactical system." A squadron of smaller human vessels appeared inside the Voidborn defensive formation. Enemy point defense systems couldn't target them fast enough before they vanished again, reappearing seconds later outside the formation as the Voidborn ships they'd infiltrated exploded from within. "They're placing displacement bombs directly inside enemy vessels," observed the Krellian general with growing excitement. "The Voidborn can't establish a defensive perimeter against an enemy that doesn't need to cross space." Admiral Takamura stepped up to the tactical display. "Commander Jovac, your remaining cruisers could exploit the disruption we're creating. The Voidborn are attempting to reconfigure their defenses to counter our displacement jumps." Jovac studied the tactical situation, his compound eyes analyzing patterns invisible to humans. "Agreed. Vrexian Battle Group, advance to coordinates 557 to 921. Target exposed flanks of Voidborn heavy elements." The remaining assembly forces rallied, finding unexpected openings as the human fleet's unconventional tactics forced the Voidborn to divide their attention. A massive Voidborn dreadnought locked weapons on a Lumerian energy vessel. Before it could fire, 5 human destroyers materialized in a perfect pentagon around it. They discharged specialized quantum disruption beams that intersected at the enemy ship's core, causing a cascade failure that reduced the dreadnought to particles. "Central target eliminated," reported Captain Rodriguez, moving to secondary objectives. The quantum horizon itself performed a series of rapid displacements, appearing at one location just long enough to fire its main batteries before vanishing again. The Voidborn couldn't track it, much less target it. On the assembly station, Alina watched as decades of classified human military development revealed itself on the galactic stage. Quantum displacement technology had started as a scientific curiosity, then became a transportation revolution, before military strategists recognized its combat potential. "Voidborn vessels attempting coordinated retreat," announced a sensor officer. "Their formation is breaking." For the first time since the conflict began, the assembly witnessed the Voidborn in disarray. Nearly 40 enemy vessels had been destroyed in less than 15 minutes, with minimal human casualties. Commander Jovac turned to Admiral Takamura. "Your species has mastered the same phase-shifting technology the Voidborn employ, but with greater precision and tactical flexibility." "Not quite the same," Takamura corrected. "The Voidborn use dimensional phasing. We've developed true quantum displacement. The difference is significant. Significant enough to turn the tide of this war," Jovac acknowledged. On the display, the remaining Voidborn vessels accelerated away from the battlefield, pursued by human ships that continued to appear and disappear across space like cosmic predators. "Commander," Captain Rodriguez called from the screen, We have wounded assembly crew from damaged vessels. Request permission to extract them using targeted personnel displacement. Zovak's mandibles clicked in what humans now recognized as astonishment. You can teleport living beings as well. Captain Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. Commander, that's how our crews boarded these ships in the first place. The Assembly Grand Chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from all 87 species packed the tiered seating, with auxiliary viewing screens erected for those who couldn't fit inside. The Voidborn retreat had sparked a diplomatic firestorm throughout the galactic community. In the week since humanity's dramatic intervention, the power structure of the Stellar Assembly had been thrown into chaos. Species that once dismissed Earth now sent diplomatic envoys bearing lavish gifts. 3 minor civilizations had already requested formal alliances with humanity. The Lumerians offered unprecedented access to their energy technology in exchange for quantum displacement research. Elena stood at the central podium, no longer relegated to the margins. Admiral Takamura and Captain Rodriguez flanked her, their Earth Defense Force uniforms drawing curious stares from the gathered representatives. Commander Zovak entered with his senior staff, their exoskeletons polished to ceremonial brilliance. He approached the human delegation with a formal gesture that, while not quite deferential, lacked his previous condescension. The Vryxian Empire acknowledges Earth's decisive contribution to the recent conflict, he stated, his translator carefully calibrated for diplomatic nuance. However, questions must be addressed regarding your species' concealment of military capabilities from assembly disclosure protocols. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. The Thalassian moderator raised their hands for silence. Ambassador Chen, while all celebrate the Voidborn's retreat, many representatives have expressed concern. Earth claimed Category 5 status while possessing Category 1 military technology. Some suggest this constitutes deliberate deception of the Assembly. Elena took a deep breath. This moment would define humanity's place in the galactic community for generations. Honored representatives, she began, Earth did not deceive the Assembly. We answered precisely what was asked of us. The registration questionnaire requested our number of conventional interstellar vessels, 24. It asked for systems under our control, 1. It inquired about our maximum conventional propulsion capability, which we accurately reported. She activated the central display, showing the original classification forms. Not once did the questionnaire ask, have you mastered instantaneous matter transportation across unlimited distances? Or, can you teleport entire battle fleets into combat zones? These questions weren't posed because the Assembly considered such technology theoretically impossible. Convenient interpretations, the Krellian general muttered, though with less conviction than before. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. The displacement fleet wasn't constructed as a military secret. It was developed as a response to humanity's unique challenges. Earth lacks the resources to build conventional propulsion vessels that could compete with established powers. We had to innovate or remain insignificant. Why not share this innovation? Asked the Lumerian representative. The Assembly Protocol encourages technological exchange. Admiral Takamura answered. Earth's history contains cautionary lessons about introducing revolutionary technologies without proper ethical frameworks. Quantum displacement can transport fleets or deliver planet-killing weapons directly to planetary cores. We needed to understand both the capability and responsibility before sharing it. Commander Zovak's compound eyes fixed on Elena. And now, after demonstrating your technology's military applications, do humans intend to establish dominance through technological superiority? The question hung in the air. Many representatives leaned forward, tension evident in various biological displays of anxiety. Elena shook her head. Earth seeks partnership, not dominance. We propose establishing a new assembly division dedicated to quantum sciences, with membership open to all species willing to collaborate under strict ethical guidelines. She displayed preliminary schematics for a galactic transportation network based on displacement technology. Imagine a connected galaxy where distance no longer divides us, where resources can be shared instantly between worlds in need, where response to crisis isn't limited by travel time. The chamber erupted in overlapping conversations as representatives consulted with their governments. Even skeptical species couldn't ignore the implications of such technology becoming widely available, especially if refusing meant watching rivals gain access. The Thalassian moderator observed the changing mood with experienced eyes. It seems, Ambassador Chen, that humanity's smallest contribution to the Assembly may ultimately be its 3,500 warships. 6 months after the Voidborn retreat, the Stellar Assembly underwent its most significant restructuring in 2 millennia. The Grand Chamber, once arranged in concentric rings of status, with Category 1 species at the center, had been redesigned as an equal forum with integrated seating throughout. Elena stood on the observation deck, watching representatives from dozens of worlds mingle freely where rigid hierarchies had once dictated their interactions. The reforms had been contentious, with several elder species initially threatening to withdraw rather than surrender their privileged positions. Yet the undeniable reality of humanity's technological leap had forced a fundamental reassessment of how galactic civilization measured advancement. Contemplating your handiwork, Ambassador. Commander Jovac approached, his exoskeleton now bearing ceremonial markings of the newly formed Joint Defense Council. The Assembly was changing itself long before humans arrived. Elena replied diplomatically. We merely accelerated the process. An interesting perspective, the Phyrexian said, his translator conveying a tone that might have been amusement. My species would say you detonated a quantum displacement bomb in our political structure. Below them, the central platform had been transformed into a demonstration area where human and alien engineers collaborated on the first public quantum displacement network node. The prototype, roughly the size of a small shuttle, represented 6 months of intensive knowledge exchange between 17 species. Admiral Takamura joined them, accompanied by the Lumerian chief scientist. The integration tests are proceeding ahead of schedule, he reported. The Lumerian crystal lattice stabilizers reduced power requirements by 38%, and the human quantum algorithms resolved our synchronization issues completely, added the Lumerian, her crystalline form shimmering with professional pride. Neither of us could have achieved this alone. Elena nodded, satisfied. The path hadn't been smooth. 3 conservative species had indeed withdrawn from the Assembly, and humans had faced assassination attempts from extremist elements opposed to the new order. Yet the momentum toward cooperation proved unstoppable once the potential benefits became clear. Captain Rodriguez entered the observation deck, now wearing the insignia of the Interspecies Quantum Command. Final preparations complete. Ambassador. The demonstration will commence in 10 minutes. The viewing area filled as dignitaries gathered to witness the historic moment. The prototype displacement gate hummed with energy as engineers made final adjustments. If successful, this test would transport a supply container from the assembly station to Earth orbit instantaneously, the first step toward a network that would eventually connect every member world. I've been meaning to ask you something, Ambassador, Commander Jovac said quietly as the countdown began. Earth could have revealed its technology at any time. Why choose that particular moment, when the assembly faced its darkest hour? Elena considered her response carefully. Humans have a saying, Commander. Character is revealed in crisis. We needed to understand the assembly's true nature before entrusting it with technology that could transform or destroy civilization. And what did you learn about our character? That despite our differences, most species ultimately choose cooperation over extinction. That pride can be overcome by necessity. That diversity of thought creates solutions impossible in homogeneous cultures. The countdown reached 0. The prototype gate pulsed with blue-white energy, and the supply container vanished without sound or spectacle. Simply there one moment, gone the next. Seconds later, confirmation arrived from Earth. Perfect transition. 0 displacement variance. The observation deck erupted in celebration. Species that had been mortal enemies for centuries embraced or performed their cultural equivalents. The Thalassian moderator approached Elena with formal dignity. The Assembly recognizes Earth's contribution, not merely to our survival, but to our evolution as a galactic community, they stated. Your species designation has been officially reclassified. They presented a crystalline plaque bearing Earth's new designation, not Category 1, as Elena had expected, but something new. Founding member, Quantum Age Civilization. Commander Jovac performed an elaborate Vrexian gesture of profound respect, one that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. It seems, he said, mandibles clicking softly, that the smallest worlds sometimes harbor the largest ideas.